Good morning and welcome to this session of BA third year optional English semester 5 paper 9 of modern English structure. The paper title is Introduction to English Speech Sounds. And today we are going to talk about phonemes and allophones along with the idea of phonetic transcription. So let's get started. A phoneme is a minimal sound unit of a language. If the infinite number of speech sounds that a human speech mechanism is producing, every language selects a few sounds which together form the sound system of that language. A minimal sound unit of a language that exists in contrastive distribution is called as the phoneme. Let us understand this definition word by word. A minimal sound unit of a language would mean that it cannot be divided further from that particular sound. Existing in contrastive distribution means that all phonemes can exist in the same positions and that the replacement of one sound with another results in the change of meaning and thereby forms a different word in that language. Now, what does that mean? Let's get ourselves acquainted with one example. As you could see on the screen, P-E-T is the word and the pronunciation of it using the phonemes is given to you in the slant lines adjacent to it. The p sound, a sound and t sound are used. Whatever we put in the slant lines are the phonemes, and whatever are written loose or free are what are called as letters. Okay, the word PET uses three sounds: p sound, a sound and t sound. Now, of these three sounds, p is in the word initial position because it is in the beginning of the word. A is in the word medial position because it is in the middle of the word. And the sound t is in the word final position of the word. In English, there are 44 sounds or 44 phonemes, and the transcription using phonemes is called as the phonemic transcription or the broad transcription, which is kept in the slant lines as you could see in the example. They are called as phonemes because the replacement of each other, the replacement of each sound with another, as you could see in this table, results in the change of the word and thereby a change in the meaning. Let's understand what does it mean. In the first column, you could find the word initial replacement. For the word PET, the word initial sound is P. Now, when this p is replaced by l, as you could see in the second row, it becomes let. Now, it's a new word that is formed with a new meaning. If it is replaced with a n sound, it becomes the word net, N-E-T, where the meaning changes and the word changes. If p is replaced with s, it becomes S-E-T, set, which is a different word with a different meaning. If p in pet is replaced with m, it becomes M-E-T, met, a different word with a different meaning. And if it is replaced with y, it becomes yet, again with a different word and a different meaning. Each pair of sounds, for example, P-E-T and L-E-T, this becomes one pair. Each pair of sounds which differ in only one sound is what is called as a minimal pair. And here in the first column, we have the minimal pairs for the word initial position. We also can have such similar minimal pairs for the word medial positions. That is the middle sound, which is A, in the example PET, can be replaced with A and thereby we form a different word called PAT, pat, with a different meaning. If A sound is replaced with E sound, as you could find in the third row, that becomes a word called pit, pit. The word is different with a different spelling and a different meaning. If it is replaced with oo, it becomes put, put. If it is replaced with o, it becomes pot, pot. And if it is replaced with the diphthong ow, it becomes pout, a different word with a different meaning. So word medially also we can frame the minimal pairs and understand the replacement of one sound with the other relates to a different word with a different meaning. The similar notion of minimal pairs can be applied to the word final position as well. The word final position in the letter V, in the word PET, is occupied by the letter T and the sound T. If the letter T is replaced with, say, the letter L, it becomes PEL, pel. If it is replaced with N, it becomes PEN, pen. Similarly, our PEG, peg, PEM, pem, and PEB, peb. The two words PET and PEB are different in only one sound. The T sound in the word final position and the B sound in the word final position. So such are called as minimal pairs. The replacement of one sound with the other will result in the change of meaning and a different word in the language. If it is so, then these sounds are called as phonemes. Let us go down to the discussion of what is called as the allophone. Phonetically similar sounds in complementary distribution are called as the allophones. Complementary distribution means that the sounds cannot occur in the same phonetic environment. And by this time, we understand what this phonetic environment is. Occurring in the same position, word initial, word final, and word medial positions are called as the environments. If by mistake they are kept in the same environment by a non-native speaker, they don't anyway result in the change of meaning of the word. If they result in the change of meaning of the word, that becomes a phoneme. And English language has identified 44 phonemes which we got ourselves acquainted with. I hope all of you are practicing all the 44 sounds in terms of pronouncing them with an example every day. And using the phonemes, whatever we represent in the slant lines is what is called as the phonemic transcription or the broad transcription. Now, when we come down to allophones, say for example, C-A-K-E, cake. A native speaker pronounces the initial sound k with a slight h sound. And he pronounces it as k. K. You get it right. K with a slight h sound. Whereas the word final k sound is not pronounced so and is pronounced as k. K. You just stop there. This phenomena is what is called as aspiration in English. What is aspiration? To pronounce a particular sound with a slight h sound is what is called as aspiration, which is an important feature of English pronunciation. The voiceless sounds like p, t, and k sounds are pronounced with a slight h sound whenever they occur in the accented position of the initial position of the word. And this phenomena is called as aspiration. So P-E-N is pronounced not as pen, but as pen with a slight h sound. Similarly, T-E-N is not pronounced just as ten, as non-native speakers pronounce, but is pronounced as ten. That's right, ten. K-I-N-G is pronounced as king, with a slight h sound that you could see in the pronunciation of k sound. Now, this phenomena is applied only to the sounds of p, t, k, p sound, t sound, and k sound when they occur in the initial position of the accented syllable. P, t, and k. In other places, they are not given the accent, and so in the example of C-A-K-E, cake, the first sound of the word is k, and it should be accented according to the rule of aspiration. Yes or no? Yes. So it is not cake, it is cake. Yes, a slight h sound is to be heard. But look at the k sound that occurs in the word final position of the same word. Cake, the last sound. Now that sound k in the last position, in the final position of the word, is not accented. It is not accented, and if you pronounce it and stop there, the tongue touches the tip of the soft palate, which is called as velum, to pronounce the k sound, and it remains there. If you are not prolonging it to complete the sentence and you are just pronouncing the word cake and stop, the back of the tongue still remains there with the soft palate. So, the initial k sound that you are pronouncing is aspirated one, whereas the word final k sound that you are pronouncing is number 1, unaspirated, and number 2, the tongue is not released. So, unaspirated and unreleased. Do you understand the difference between both? So, the narrow transcription, according to this, representing this small variation is, as you could find, included in the square brackets. K, and you have a superscript of h sound. Do you realize? Thereby telling you to pronounce it as k. And then the word final k has got a small, superscript of stop, which would mean that it is unaspirated and unreleased k. So there is a slight difference in the pronunciation of the initial sound of k and the word final sound of k. Such phonetically similar sounds in complementary distribution are called as allophones. Continuing the discussion, we also have something like, yes, take for example the word scale. The pronunciation of the word is scale. Scale. So you have s sound, k sound, ae is the diphthong that you are using, followed by l sound. Scale. Now observe the pronunciation of k sound here. The k, because it doesn't occur in the initial position of the word, is not aspirated. So it doesn't have the h sound there. But at the same time, it is not like the second sound of k in the example cake, where it was unreleased. The tongue was touching the tip of the soft palate and it remains so, not getting released. But the pronunciation of k sound in scale, yes, the tongue touches the tip of the soft palate, but then is released to pronounce the next sound so that you can utter the entire word. So this k is a third variety of k. This k is number 1, unaspirated and also released. So you get 3 varieties of k sound in the 2 examples discussed. The initial k sound in the word cake is aspirated one. So it is the aspirated variety of k. The word final k in the word cake is unaspirated because it is not present in the initial position, and unreleased because it is the word final one and the tongue touches the tip of the soft palate and remains so. So the second variety is unaspirated and unreleased variety of k. The third variety, as you could find in k, is unaspirated because it is not present in the initial position of the word, but released. Only then you can pronounce and complete the pronunciation of the word. So 3 varieties of k sound are observed: aspirated variety, unaspirated and unreleased variety. Third is unaspirated but released variety. All the 3 varieties that you could see incorporated in the square brackets are all forms of a single phoneme k. They are all phonetically similar because they all are part of k sound. So such phonetically similar sounds occurring in the dissimilar environments. What do you mean by this? Where the aspirated k comes, the unaspirated k doesn't come. Where the unreleased k comes, the released k cannot come. So you cannot pronounce it as cake, ya cake, scale. All these become unacceptable pronunciations because they have fixed position and in place of one, the other cannot come. But if a non-native speaker pronounces cake as an unaspirated but released one, but still the word remains the same and the meaning will not change. Such phonetically similar sounds occurring in dissimilar environments which a native speaker never mixes up are called as allophones. And even if non-native speaker mixes them and mispronounces them, it will not bring about any difference in the meaning but understood as pronunciation problems. And similarly, the sounds p, t, l have allophones in English. A phoneme is a minimal sound unit of a language in contrastive distribution, but the allophone is phonetically similar unit in complementary distribution. I hope the point of phonemes and allophones is clear. Let's move down to a small associated discussion on phonemes and allophones, which is called as the phonetic transcription. In English, there is no one-to-one correspondence between spelling and sound. For example, C-A-T, beginning with the letter C, the C letter is pronounced as k sound because you don't say sat, you say cat. Give the aspiration to k. You just have learnt what aspiration is. P, t, k sounds when they occur in the initial position are to be uttered with a slight h sound, which is called as aspiration. So it is cat. If you look at the second example, C-E-A-S-E. Now this is not keys, but this is C's. The letter C is pronounced as the sound S. If you look at the third example, C-H-U-R-C-H. Now this is not pronounced as kirk or sirs, but it is pronounced as church. The same letter C in the third example is pronounced as ch. Now this adds to the confusion of the pronunciation. Not only the consonants, but you also could find a variation in the letters and sounds with the vowels also. In this slide, I have given you the examples for the letter U. C-U-T. The letter U is pronounced as a sound, cut, cut. But look at the second example, P-U-T. It is not put, but it is put. R-U-D-E. It is not rud or rud, but it is rude, the longer pronunciation. M-I-N-U-T-E. The pronunciation of it is minute in the form of E, not U or A, but E, minute. Look at the last word, U-N-I-V-E-R-S-I-T-Y. It is university, university, U. The same letter is used in all the examples, but the pronunciation of each in different example is different. Many a times you also could find that in English, different spellings are used, different letters are used to pronounce the same sound. Here in the slide, please find different examples with different letters and spellings, but having similar pronunciation of the sound k. In the first example, you could find C-H-E-M-I-S-T-R-Y, chemistry. C-H is pronounced as k. In the second example, K-I-T, the letter K is pronounced as k sound, kit. In the third example, R-O-C-K, the letters C and K are together pronounced as k sound. And if you look at the next example, C-U-T, the letter C is used to pronounce the sound k. In the last example, you could find Quen. The letter Qu are pronounced as Qu. So, different letters are used to represent the same sound. This is even so for the pronunciation of the vowels as well. The representation of the sound E is observed in the first example with the letters EA. EAT. EA is pronounced as E sound. If you look at the second example, CEASE, EA are represented as E sound. If you look at the third example, double E is represented as E. BEEN, bean. So the same sound but different spellings or different letters are used to represent it. This adds to the confusion of the pronunciation totally. And in English, we observe that there is no correspondence between spellings that we write and sounds that we pronounce. Because such mismatch between the spellings and pronunciation occur, a learner of English cannot be sure of how to pronounce a word that he or she encounters for the first time in the written form. Nor can he or she be sure of how a new word heard by him would be spelled. And that's why a need had been felt to evolve an alphabet in which words of any language could be written unambiguously. Such an alphabet is called International Phonetic Alphabet or IPA that we already have been acquainted with in the previous lessons. The International Phonetic Alphabet or IPA is devised by the International Phonetic Association. It has all symbols to represent all the sounds that exist in the languages of the world analyzed till date. It can therefore be used to transcribe words of any language, to write them down in the language or in the way we exactly pronounce. It is based primarily on the Roman alphabet, some Greek symbols like the and the, some diacritic marks like two dots or dash beneath or above the sound, and modified Roman alphabet like a sound as you could find in Ulta V or Ulta E representation that we already have learnt. Approximately 80 sounds have been identified by analyzing the world languages, of which English uses only 44 sounds. Every language selects what sounds are to be used in that particular language. The use of IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, to represent in writing the sounds related to the words or phrases or sentences of any language of the world is called as the phonetic transcription. The phonetic transcription is normally kept in the slant lines, as we have been already acquainted. Look at these examples. ROCK is the spelling. And phonetic transcription is exactly the way we pronounce it. ROCK, in the pronunciation of it, you have the R sound, O sound, and K sound. So in transcription, you just have used 3 sounds instead of 4 letters that you have in the spelling. Similarly, QUEEN. The pronunciation of it is queen. K sound, W sound, E sound, and N sound. So only 4 sounds are used in the pronunciation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lettered queen. Sometimes it could be the same as you write, like PEN, the pronunciation is pen, P sound, A sound, N sound. GET, the pronunciation is get, G sound, A sound, T sound. GEM, look here, it is not gem, it is gem. J. J is a sound in English, and the representation over there you could see is J, D and J combination, A sound and M sound. Look for the next example, PEOPLE, people, people. Per sound, EO is pronounced as E, PLE is pronounced as per sound and L sound. So people. The next two words are very interesting. P-S-Y-C-H-O-L-O-G-Y. Now, P-S, wherever they occur in the spellings, the P sound is always silent. So, it is not psychology, psychology, but it is psychology. So, S sound, I, K, O, L, J and E. How do you know to transcribe it? You just have to pronounce it. Keep on pronouncing it and you tend to get a guess as to what sounds are used. Whatever sounds you are using in the pronunciation, the same thing goes in the phonetic transcription, also kept in the slant lines. And in phonetic transcription, the phonemes are used, which are all small letters. So you don't find capital letters there at all. Similarly, the last word that I have given you, L-A-M-B. M and B, wherever they occur in the spelling, B sound is always silent. So you pronounce this not as lamb, but it is lamb. Lamb. That's it. So the L sound, A sound, and M sound. And that's it. Lamb. Why do you think that it is required for the phonetic transcription? There are two different types of phonetic transcription. One is called as the narrow transcription. The other is called as the broad transcription. The broad transcription uses the phonemes to represent the sounds. And so it is called as phonemic transcription also. And phonemic transcription uses phonemes which are kept in the slant lines, as you could see for the example given there on the slide. The narrow transcription uses allophones. Remember what allophones are? Phonetically similar sounds which are in complementary distribution. Yes. So the narrow transcription uses allophones to represent the sounds, and that's why it is kept in the square brackets. It is also called as the allophonic transcription because the allophonic representation is been observed here. So it is not just per that you are using. Because it is occurring in the initial position, allophonically speaking, you have to aspirate it, and the aspirated per is written there. So allophones are employed in representing PIN word, and hence they are kept in the square brackets and the allophone part of it is written. So one is the phonemic transcription using phonemes, the other is the allophonic transcription using allophones. Normally we restrict ourselves to the phonemic transcription. What are the uses of phonetic transcription? Do you think that we should be using this phonetic transcription? Yes, of course. Why? Number one is to represent the pronunciation of a word or a longer sequence unambiguously. The way in which you pronounce, you transcribe. So there is no ambiguity at all, whether it should be pronounced in this way or that way. If the spelling is this, what should be the pronunciation of that? All these questions will automatically get solved. You can pronounce any word unambiguously using phonetic transcription. Number two, it helps the second language or the foreign language learner to pick up the language and its pronunciation right. Otherwise, the second language learner, like all of us, we never know as to how to pronounce the word L-A-M-B or P-S-Y-C-H-E. It's pronounced as lamb and psyche. So, how will we come to know? We just understand the moment we know what phonetic transcription is, because every standard dictionary nowadays has the word followed by its transcription. So, whenever you have a doubt as to how the word is to be pronounced, you have to refer to the dictionary, not only for the spelling, but also for the pronunciation. So, the correct pronunciation, as is, I will not use the word correct, but it is acceptable pronunciation, can be understood by all of us who are learning English language or any new language as a second language or a foreign language learners. Number three is to understand the silent letters and thereby differentiate the letters and sounds of any language. We just saw in the previous slide two examples where silent letters were used. P in psychology and B in lamb. So using phonetic transcription, all of us can understand what letters stand silent and what exactly is the pronunciation of that word. Number four, phonetic transcription helps us to understand different varieties of the same language. You can have different varieties of English, like the Australian English has a different pronunciation. The American English has got a different pronunciation. The British English is totally different. And so African English has got a different pronunciation. And you have fairly different Indian English also. So we can understand the pronunciation differences in each variety of English language or the same language. And number 5, the use of phonetic transcription is to represent the speech of an unknown language through phonetic transcription. So, being Maharashtrians with a knowledge of Hindi and English, if we want to analyze some Native American language or an African language or an Arabic language, yes, we can do using phonetic transcription because it is the phonemes and the pronunciation of these phonemes that is important. The way in which we pronounce is represented in the phonetic transcription. And hence, phonetic transcription helps us in so many different ways to pick up the language pronunciation correct. I hope I have made my point very clear with respect to the discussion of phonemes. And in this video, you have learnt what phonemes are, allophones are, and what is phonetic transcription, how to transcribe phonetically a word, what different types of phonetic transcription are there in terms of broad and narrow, which are called as phonemic transcription and allophonic transcription respectively, and what are the uses of phonetic transcription. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next video and bye for now.